So first thing you're going to want, if you don't already have it, is to set up an entity name. Okay, I'm no attorney, neither is Chris. We work with many attorneys, and each business, each situation requires a different strategy. So first thing I want to say is consult a tax attorney or CPA. If you need recommendations, I have some for you. Feel free to email me anytime, dan@theclinicaltrialsguru.com, or consult with your own, someone near you. Okay, someone familiar with your state laws, because every state has different requirements, regulations when it comes to business. We're not even talking about research right now, just business in general. You don't need a clinical research specialist attorney, although I do have one of those as well. His name's Darshan Kulkarni. So first things first, get a tax attorney or a CPA, discuss your situation with them, and figure out what works best for you. An LLC, which is a limited liability company, an S Corp, a DBA, which is a doing business as or a fictitious business name, or a C Corp. Okay, now here's what I've used in the past. I've used an LLC, I've used an S Corp, and I've used the DBA. I've never used the C Corp. C Corps actually get taxed twice. So unless you're planning to be a really big company and go public one day on the stock market, you should not start a C Corp. Okay, because you're paying double tax. Now, what I've used is an LLC, because limited liability company. First of all, they're a little cheaper to set up. They don't have the stringent requirements that a C Corp has, as far as quarterly minutes and all those kind of things that you have to keep up if you want to, what's called, not pierce the corporate veil. And I have a really good book I recommend you for this, for anyone who's starting their own company. It's called Inc. and Grow Rich. That's INC and Grow Rich. It's kind of like a play on the famous book Think and Grow Rich. Well, this is Inc. and Grow Rich. So incorporate and grow rich. Some of the stuff's a little outdated, but a lot of the fundamental principles of what makes sense for which situations still apply. It was a book written in 2005, I want to say. Really good book. I'm looking at it right now on my bookshelf. So if you would like, just go on Amazon and find it. So I've used an LLC. Again, easy to create, perfect for small business, easy to maintain. Every state you pay a yearly filing fee. In California, it's one of the most expensive. It's $800. In some states, it's a lot cheaper. In some states, I think it's even free. So set up an LLC. Go to LegalZoom, LegalZoom.com, to create it. Don't pay. I know I just told you to consult with a tax attorney. Unless they're giving you a better deal than LegalZoom, go with LegalZoom to create the LLC. Okay, it's like $400. You can also create an S Corp with LegalZoom. $400, you can create an LLC in one day. Okay, and then you consult your attorney, or consult your attorney and let them know why you shouldn't use LegalZoom and why you should use them. Let them tell you what are the pros and cons of both, and you decide. But from my experiences, I've used LegalZoom in the past for most of my companies, with Chris, without Chris, by myself, with other people. LegalZoom's the way to go. Of course, we have attorneys, but when it comes to just something as simple as incorporating a company, you can go to LegalZoom. It's pretty boilerplate. S Corp, just like an LLC, it's a pass-through entity. Again, I'm no tax attorney, but what that means is no matter whatever the net profits are of your company is what passes through to you personally as profit. So if your research clinic grosses $400K and nets $300K, okay, what passes through to you as taxable income is $300,000. And depending on what state you're in, you're going to pay state income tax, and then you're going to pay federal income tax as well. Okay, that's for both an LLC and an S Corp. A C Corp, so LLC and S Corps don't pay any corporate tax unless you get a payroll, which I recommend you would use Paychex or ADP, but that's worry about that when you actually have employees. For right now, if you're doing it yourself, you don't need a payroll. Okay. LLCs do not have to pay their owners on a payroll, so you can avoid payroll tax if you have a LLC. S corps do require owners be put on a payroll. That's the main difference between an LLC and an S corp. Both are pass-through entities. You can get more write-offs, and this is where you need to consult with a tax attorney, because again, I'm no specialist. You can get more tax write-offs with an S corp. It's a little harder to maintain, a little more expensive, but you can actually put yourself on payroll, pay yourself what's called a reasonable salary for your position. Okay, and that is not pass-through income to you. That is actually an expense. But neither the LLC or the S corp have to pay corporate tax. Only a C corp has to pay corporate tax, and whatever profits get sent to the owners are taxed again. That's why I mentioned the double taxation. There are a lot of benefits of using a C corp, specifically when bringing on investors and when going public, but for 99.9% of you, that's not going to be the case, so don't waste your time with a C corp. DBA is the quickest. It's not a separate entity, so unlike all the other three, the LLC, the S corp, or the C corp, those are separate entities. They get what's called the EIN number. Okay, that is an EIN number is a social security number for a company. Remember, in the United States, a company is considered a separate entity. So if Dan Sfera owns Global Clinical Trials LLC, and Global Clinical Trials LLC gets sued, as long as I haven't pierced the corporate veil, again, go read that book, Ink and Grow Rich. As long as I haven't pierced the corporate veil and I'm respecting the regulations of running and maintaining an LLC, I, Dan Sfera, will not get sued. My company, my LLC, can get sued. Okay, this is why it's important to keep up with the mandates that each state has for their LLC, because you want to make sure that your LLC is on the up and up. Should your LLC get sued and a judge finds out that you haven't been keeping up and up with your company and maintaining your company properly, what's called piercing the corporate veil, then they can sue you personally, and that defeats the whole purpose of having a company. Okay, the whole purpose of having a company is to reduce liability from you, shelter you yourself personally from liability. A DBA, on the other hand, does not do that. You can get a DBA in 20 minutes. I can do it right now. Every county and every state has their own process, but it's simple. A DBA is not a business. It's just a fictitious business name. So if I, Dan Sfera, want to operate as the clinical trials guru, which, by the way, I have a company. I have an LLC for the Clinical Trials Guru. But if I, Dan Sfera, do not want to create a LLC or a S corp, but I do want to promote myself as the Clinical Trials Guru and receive checks in the name the Clinical Trials Guru, I can set up a DBA, which is a doing business as, or a fictitious business name, and I can operate under that name. Very easy. But on the flip side of this, the fact that it's very easy to create, is you have zero protection from liability. All the liability goes to you. A DBA does not have an EIN. A DBA is tied to your social security number. A DBA is not a separate entity. It's you operating as a fictitious business name. So those are the key differences. Again, there's plenty of stuff on YouTube about this. This is not a course for corporate law, although I've been doing it long enough so I do know a little bit about it, but consult an attorney, because I still do. Bookkeeping and billing. Okay, Chris does a lot of this now. I used to do all of it. So I use QuickBooks, and what I do, whatever bank account you use for your site, one of the big ones, whatever bank you want to use, it doesn't matter. Every month, you need to do a reconciliation so that you yourself know what the numbers look like. Because if you don't track it, you don't know whether things are going well or things are going bad. It's just going to be subjective. So I use QuickBooks because I'm a messy person. I don't like worksheets. I don't like Excel. QuickBooks plugs right into most major banks and does a lot of it for you. And then you just go in there and you itemize what the expenses are, and then you give this monthly report to your CPA so that he or she can do a professional bookkeeping, that should the IRS ever audit your company, they look at that, not your QuickBooks. Your QuickBooks is just for you internally and for your CPA. The formal bookkeeping should be kept by a CPA. Here in California, which is the most expensive place for anything, we get charged $100 a month for professional bookkeeping from our CPA. Okay, and I use QuickBooks. Chris uses Excel. Okay, it doesn't matter which one you use. If you're comfortable with Excel, use Excel. I actually am not that good with Excel, so I don't use that. I use QuickBooks. Okay, hire a CPA, like I said earlier. Pay the monthly bookkeeping fee, and then make sure. Another reason why I like QuickBooks over Excel is in QuickBooks you can actually create like a quick invoice. It already has everything set up for you. It keeps track of the invoice numbers. Whenever you want to invoice a sponsor or a CRO for transportation reimbursement for a patient, marketing reimbursement for a patient, archiving document reimbursement, screen fail reimbursements, and you need to be invoicing for some of these. Every contract's different, so refer back to the module on contracts and budgets. Every contract's different. Sometimes you invoice for screen fails, other times they get paid automatically. It depends on the sponsor and the study. Unscheduled visits, so whatever you need to invoice for, QuickBooks does it automatically. Of course, you can always create your own invoice with Excel, and there's other vendors that do invoices, but I like to keep things simple, so I use QuickBooks. Chris, on the other hand, uses Excel. So it's just a matter of preference. Just use something and be consistent with it. Now, this is an important slide. We've probably gone through a lot of these in other modules, but it goes with, I don't need to say this too many, I can't say this too many times. We are being tracked, okay, by these sponsors. So one of the benefits for sponsors of having EDC and CTMS systems and all these big data analytics that they use is they could track everything, and then they compare us to all the other sites. And if you don't stack up, if you fall on the bottom of the bell curve, it's just like college. If you're graded on a curve. So there's going to be some exceptional sites at the high end of the curve, and there's going to be some awful sites at the low end of the curve, and everyone else in between. So as long as you're in the everywhere in between or on the good side, just like in college, you're fine. You don't want to be on the left side of the curve, left side of the bell curve, because you're probably not going to get a study from that sponsor again or that CRO. And you're in trouble if it's a big CRO, because like if it's a Quintiles or a INC, because they get a lot of studies. Okay, so these are things you need to pay attention to, metrics that matter. Screen fail ratio. Okay, queries that you're answering. How long does it take you to answer queries? How quickly do you enter data? It's supposed to be entered within 72 hours. Now, how do you stack up against everybody else? And it's easy to agree in principle. Yeah, Dan, of course we're going to answer queries in a timely manner. Of course we're going to enter data in a timely manner. Yeah, easier said than done, because when you're in the clinic and you've got studies, you've got patient visits coming at you, and you've got monitors coming at you, and you've got a million things to do. And if you're a business owner, 1,000,001 things to do, because you got to manage the business too. That's much easier said than done. So, and remember, at some point you're going to grow and you're going to have to delegate these things to a study coordinator, but you still have to enforce it, right? You still have to manage it. So if you go back to the quality assurance module, I can't remember what week it is, but just look it up, quality assurance module. I believe it's week 9 of the Site Owner Academy. We talk about obviously answering queries, managing how to manage employees, how to make sure that these things are getting done. Another thing that's important is how quickly do you go from site initiation visit, SIV, to first patient screened. And remember, they compare you with all the other sites. So if it takes you from SIV to first screen 3 months and the average is 3 weeks, you're on the wrong side of that bell curve. Okay, same thing with site initiation visit to first randomized patient, right? They're tracking everything. These are just some of the things they're tracking. Believe me, they're tracking everything. Anything that can be tracked is being tracked by the sponsors, and it will be used for or against you. Okay, SSV to SIV time frame. This specifically refers to your startup regulatory. How quickly can you get your regulatory and your contracts done? Yeah, you may have said on the feasibility survey that you can get it done in 2 weeks, but in reality it took you 3 months. So they don't care about what you're promising on a feasibility survey. They care about what you're actually doing. Okay, that's another metric that matters. Protocol deviations. How many protocol deviations do you have compared to other sites? Again, you don't want to be on the wrong side of the bell curve. Adverse events, serious adverse events. Are you underreporting? Are you overreporting? Both are bad. You just want to do what's right. You want to follow GCP. You want to make sure your PI has oversight, and you shouldn't think, am I underreporting? Should I report this AE? I don't want to overreport. Don't overthink it. Okay, just understand what adverse event is and what a SAE is, and then talk to your PI and then report it. Okay, you shouldn't think with this metric in mind, but you also should, and they're obviously contradictory, but you don't want to overthink it either. Okay, but there are cases of sites that overreport and they end up getting audited, and there are cases, more often than not, of sites underreporting, and they do get audited as well. So this is also another reason why networking is important. If you have colleagues, go to the investigator meetings, make some friends. You're going to be doing the studies together. Share best practices. Talk to your colleague that you met who's running another clinic in another state. Hey, how many AEs do you guys have? We haven't had too many. Oh, you haven't had too many either? Okay. Like, you at least get some kind of feel for what other sites are doing. Okay. And your monitor, and in fairness to the sponsor, your monitor is going to be dropping hints as to where you stand. And feel free to ask them also, because most of the time, especially when you build a good rapport with your monitor, it's good to ask, hey, what are other sites seeing? Like, are they reporting these kind of SAEs, or are we the only site? Or, hey, how long did it take other sites to randomize their first patient? Are we the only ones that it's taking this long? And then they might say yes or no, actually everyone's having a hard time because the sponsor actually needs to amend the protocol because it's too difficult to enroll, something like that. Okay, so enrollment projections versus results. Again, what did you put on the feasibility survey for how many patients you're going to enroll, and what did you actually enroll when the study's all said and done? Two completely different things. This is why I always say under promise, over deliver. If you think you can randomize 10 and you're absolutely positively sure you can randomize 10, tell them you're going to randomize 8, all right, and then randomize 2 more. Ask for approval to randomize 2 more. You don't want to promise them 20 and you only enroll 2, because they're building their projections based on the feasibility surveys, and so they may not have brought on other sites because you put that you're going to randomize X amount of patients. So they figured they don't need these other sites. And if it turns out that they do need to bring on those other sites, they're going to know why, and they definitely track that. Okay, so make sure that you pay attention when it comes to those things. Respond to emails. It sounds simple, all right, but you'd be surprised how many people, even clients of ours, are guilty of this. Like, we have someone now who reaches out to our clients, our own clients that are paying us a monthly retainer fee, our own clients who should know better. We have someone on staff that reaches out every week, amongst other things, reminding them to check their emails and to respond to CDAs and feasibility surveys or requests for your PICV. I mean, guys and gals, these are sponsors and CROs that want to give you studies. You need to respond to them. But what I mean by timely manner is ASAP. All right? If like no more than 3 business days. And if you're really in dire need for a study, within an hour. One time I was commended on, and I've been guilty of also not responding to emails in the past. When my company got too big for me to manage, I didn't bring on people to help me out fast enough. So there was emails that I've missed. But for the most part, I'm very responsive to CDAs because I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a business person. Like, this is why we do follow up. This is why we do biz dev, is to get these feasibilities, these CDAs. And if you go through all that work and then they send it to you and you don't respond, it's kind of like in basketball, making all these fancy dribbles and going up and doing like a fancy layup, making all these nice moves and then missing the shot. Like, it's all for nothing. Okay? Respond to emails, return your CDAs and feasibilities ASAP. Please do so. CLIA waiver or certificate. I know we discussed this before. One thing I wanted to add, actually Chris wanted me to bring it up. Make sure that if you have a PI with a private practice and they already have a CLIA waiver, you still need a separate CLIA waiver for your research clinic. So whatever name of your research clinic you have, you need a CLIA waiver or a CLIA certificate in your research clinic's name. Even if you're in the same exact office as your PI who already has a CLIA waiver or certificate for their own private practice, you need a separate one for the research clinic. It doesn't cost much, just do it. You don't want to be delayed on study startup because of some technicality like that. Trainings for staff. I know we went over this, but I'm going to repeat it again. Good clinical practice, 1 time a year. IATA, shipping hazardous goods. This is for anyone who's drawing blood and processing and shipping lab samples. And then I like to do NIH. This is optional, but NIH, protecting human research subjects. And these are all free, by the way. Free links. They're in our mandatory trainings folder. NIH, protecting human research subjects. It's okay to just have that done once and just have it on file. CRM, customer retention management tool, and follow up. So I'm always telling you to follow up. I just talked 2 slides ago about not following up, like doing all the work, and then when the sponsor and CRO sends you a feasibility or a CDA form, that you don't respond. So that's not good. So you want to, when you are trying to get a CDA or feasibility, you want to build up a database of these sponsors and CROs, these contacts, so you can follow up with them. I prefer and use HubSpot. I have the free version. Many of my colleagues have a paid version of HubSpot. Many of my colleagues have a paid version of Salesforce. I haven't found that necessary yet. I use HubSpot. Every site, of course, manages their own biz dev, so they use whatever they prefer. I recommend everyone get HubSpot. It's free. You can set alerts for yourself, so it will email you when it's time to follow up with someone. I know I talked about that before on the How to Get More Studies week module. Build up a database and then use HubSpot for the CRM or use Salesforce. Patient recruitment. Again, we have a whole module, a whole week dedicated to patient recruitment. Just a couple more things I wanted to add, and some are redundant. You don't need a fancy system. Okay, I hate when people say, well, hey, I don't have a HIPAA compliant patient database. Okay, you use your PI or sub-I's database, because believe me, theirs is HIPAA compliant. Okay, you may not even be allowed access to it unless you do some training for them. Again, we discussed this. Every clinic has their own procedures and policies. Try to follow up with that. You don't need anything fancy. Okay, if you're using their own database like we taught you, You don't even need your own system. Now, if you want to build your own system and keep it HIPAA compliant, I suggest using Excel and then uploading it into Intralinks via. Okay, via.intralinks.com. It is used in the industry as a trial master file. It is also used in the industry as a virtual workspace. You can use it for just about anything. Just think of it like Dropbox for clinical research stuff. And then there's other industries that use it as well, mainly the financial services industry, but it's HIPAA compliant. It was built for clinical research. So put them all in an Excel sheet, upload the Excel sheet to the cloud, delete the Excel sheet from your computer, and now you're HIPAA compliant. Think of Intralinks as a USB stick in the cloud. Okay, so you don't need to keep patient confidential information on your desktop or your laptop and then have to worry about any kind of liability. Intralinks via doesn't cost much. Look into it. Get an email, get a corporate email address. I know we discussed this in the module, but if you're all the way in week 12 now and you still haven't gotten a corporate email, it's okay, but get one. Okay, use Google G Suite. It's $5 a month for each user. When you're starting out a new clinic, you're not going to need more than 4 users. Okay, you, your PI, and then you even have 2 other ones. Okay, that's $20 a month for 4 email addresses. That's not bad, and it looks professional. It's going to have @yourdomainname.com as an email. Much more professional than just a regular Gmail or a Yahoo. Okay, this is especially important when you're following up with sponsors on getting studies. Buy a domain name from GoDaddy, GoDaddy.com. Buy a domain name. It's going to be anywhere from $9, $9.99 a year to $12.99 a year. Try to find something that's available. A lot of things are gone now. It is 2018, and most one-word.coms are gone. Most two-word.coms are gone by now as well. Hopefully you can find one. And then use Squarespace. For around $120 a year, you get hosting, you get unlimited blogging and podcasting capabilities on Squarespace. You can, most importantly, this is what I like best, you can design it yourself. It's actually pretty simple to do. If you want it to look even more professional, or let's say you're just awful at design, I can do it. I have a digital marketing company, dansfera.com, or just email me and I'll, since you're a Site Owner Academy student, I'll give you a discount. I normally charge $850 to create a website, but for students of the Site Owner Academy, I'll do it for half of that. Okay, and then get a company logo. You can get one for as little as $5 on Fiverr.com. It just makes everything look more professional, and you need a logo to have business cards, flyers, stationery, all the other stuff we talked about, all the marketing materials for sponsors, marketing materials for PIs, marketing materials for patients. It's nice to have your logo and your branding on it. Go to Fiverr.com again for having a business card design with your logo, getting a stationery design, getting a flyer, brochure designed, and then when you're ready to print the have the actual business cards shipped to you, you can go to Vistaprint or moo.com and you can get them either for free in some cases or for a affordable price. So that's the miscellaneous. Again, thank you for making it this far in the Site Owner Academy. You are welcome to join any webinar every week. Even if you finished this academy 6 months ago, you'll have lifetime access to these video modules, and you'll have lifetime access to the webinars. So thank you very much. If you need any help or questions or concerns or anything, Dan at theclinicaltrialsguru.com. Take care.